Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Invitation to Puzzles, where today we have a Regions Yajilin by Bachelor Seal, one of my favorite pencil puzzle constructors, who also is very active posting stuff on Puzzling, so I greatly appreciate that. I don't know if Bachelor Seal has ever watched these, but thank you very much for all of your puzzles. You've been a huge part of getting me into pencil puzzles in general, even going back way before the series, but anyway, let's have a look at the rules. So we did a Yajilin recently, maybe last week or something. I don't know. Time is a flat circle and all that. This is a variation of Yajilin that I've never done before, but it looks interesting. So what do we need to do? We need to shade some cells on the board and draw a single loop that goes through all remaining cells, just like Yajilin. The loop can't branch or cross itself like usual loop things. Shaded cells can't be orthogonally adjacent, so there's a lot of Yajilin variants that break that rule. That's not true here. You still can only have one shaded cell, or sorry, you can't have two shaded cells that touch orthogonally. Okay, and a number indicates the amount of shaded cells in the outlined region. Okay, so sort of like Hayawake clues, if you will. Okay, so let's have a look at what we can do here. So I'm guessing the place I want to start is with this 2. First of all, that cell is definitely not shaded, because if it was shaded, it would not even be possible, ignoring even the loop part, to put 2 shaded cells in this region. Now, I'm also sure the 2 shaded cells aren't those 2 exactly, because if it was those 2 exactly, I've created a dead end here, which must be on a loop, but it doesn't have anywhere to go. And so if it's not those 2 exactly, it's definitely that one, which means we definitely have some loop stuff going here. And now one of these 2 is shaded, and whichever of these 2 is shaded, I want to note that that one is unshaded. And perhaps even better than this one being unshaded, it definitely connects that way because it can't connect into the shaded cell. So these are also unshaded. Likewise for this cell, actually, it's connecting to one of these 2, but the other is shaded, and so it's going over here. One way to put that is this cell is a corner. I just don't know which way it's a corner yet. But it's going to be a corner regardless. Okay, for this 2, I know that one of these 2 is shaded and one of these 2 is shaded, because otherwise I'd have to shade 2 cells that are next to each other. And the consequence of that, of knowing that one of these 2 is shaded, is that I just can never draw a line through these 2 cells. Likewise, I can never draw a line through those 2 cells. So I put this little X in here. And that's going to buy me a little bit floating around the edge of the grid. Namely, it's going to buy me that that cell can't be shaded. And that's because there's 2 worlds. Either this cell is shaded, in which case that cell and that cell can't be shaded, or this cell is not shaded, in which case, because of this X, the loop goes right through it, in which case these 2 cells are not shaded. So in all possible worlds, those 2 cells aren't shaded. And I might as well mark off some other cells I know aren't shaded. Like that cell's not shaded because it would create a dead end with the corner. Same with either of those, and either of these. Can this cell possibly be shaded? The answer is definitely not. I'm trying to figure out the elegant way to argue that this cell's definitely not shaded. Oh yeah, here's the easy way to argue the cell's definitely not shaded. If this cell is shaded, I was doing sort of bouncing it through this 2 region. It's not that complicated. If this cell is shaded, maybe I should actually use the trial mode for this. If this cell is shaded, then I immediately get both of these corners, and now my loop branches. That is what I was looking for. So that definitely does that. These 2 can't connect, can they? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a nice way to articulate the fact that I've sort of used up all of this 2 region that I can. Because the only thing that's going on in this 2 region, one of the cells is shaded. This cell, this loop end, is going through the other and connecting there. So, regardless of how this goes, these 2 loop ends are ending up connected to each other. And therefore, this is not a welcome visitor in the 2 region. Because in the 2 region, I've got this piece connecting to that, which is, again, either going to look like that or look like that, whichever way happens to work, and a shaded cell. So this actually has to go up, which now means that's a corner. That has to go that way. I'm running out of places to put my my thing. In particular, yeah, I'm definitely shading one of these 2 and one of these 2. Because I need to get to 2, and I only have so much space in which to do it, which means I can put an X there and an X there. Now that means the loop certainly does not go over here, because this would be a dead end now that I notice that, which means that's definitely shaded. So that is unshaded and a corner, which makes that be shaded. I probably could have articulated that in a way that was better. And now this loop gets pulled over through here, through this corridor. This gets pulled down. That gets pulled down one more so that I avoid a mini loop. Okay, so now we're back at this region that has a 2 in it, needs to have one of these 2 and one of these 2 shaded, so we can draw our little X over the thing. This cell can no longer be shaded. Because if this cell is shaded, if this cell's shaded, because of this one of these 2 shaded, I immediately shade that, and I just created a dead end. This is a sort of common pattern where if you shade something next to a pair of cells, you know one of them is shaded, you know exactly what it's going to look like, and in this case, what it looks like is bad. So that's not shaded, and that is. Which lets me draw that and that in, and now I can draw that and that in, which now shades that, and that continues. That is not shaded. This is now a corner, so that's shaded. That is not. That gets pushed through. Here's a pattern we talked about in the Yajilin video a lot. I need to connect this in 2 directions, and those directions aren't simultaneously up and down, because that would close the loop. In fact, I can even color the line so that you can see it would create this gross yellow-green loop. We don't want that. So this needs to connect right is the short version of that. Okay, and now here's a fancier version. This cell needs to connect in 2 of 3 ways, and I'll show you the 2 of 3 ways it isn't. It isn't those 2 of 3 ways, because that will also create the gross seasick loop once you do that. I think I learned this from Emma in my chat, this sort of to always be looking for sort of this, oops, I've accidentally closed the loop. There's some way to phrase this that is maybe marginally less look aheady, but it's also very coloring intensive. And I think probably this is one of those cases where you just learn that, hey, this is a thing where you look and see if it breaks if you connect those. Anyway, the point is this can't be shaded, because if this is shaded, we close the whole loop. So this has to go that way. So the 2 shaded cells are those. We create our corridor. We corridor over there. We mark all of those as being unshaded. We avoid trying to make a uniqueness argument. Okay. I see something slightly odd that I'm not sure if I should even say. But because of our work earlier with this T-shaped region, I see that I cannot shade 2 cells in this T-shaped region in these 4 cells, because it would require shading any 2 of these 3 cells. I couldn't shade that one because it would rule out all of them. And any 2 of these 3 cells I shade create a dead end. So I need to shade one of these 2, which I mentioned because it gets me an X here, as well as 2 unshaded cells there. Uh, and now this cell's also unshaded because if this cell was shaded, it would create a dead end here because I'd have to shade those 2. That doesn't work. So that's also unshaded because of the fact that I mentioned that one of those 2 is shaded. Uh, I also see for loopy reasons that this cell's not shaded. And let me show you what happens if this cell is shaded, because it's a good thing to be aware of in loop stuff. If this cell is shaded, now the loop comes this way. And the problem is what's happening in this little corner up here, which is namely I have 3 loop ends exactly coming into this corner. And 3 has a fundamental problem that it's confronted its entire life, which is that it is odd. And loop ends only like to pair off. They're monogamous, I suppose, in that way. And so I can't leave an odd number of loop ends ever stranded in any particular area if there's not some way to rectify it. Like some way to get a 4th loop end in here, or get a loop end of itself out without connecting. And none of those things are possible anymore if I shade this cell. So that does not work. So that's unshaded, which now tells me that one of these 2 is shaded in order that we possibly get this to work, which now tells me that cell is unshaded. Because if it was shaded, we'd get this sort of cascade of creating a dead end again. We can also do loop things like this does not connect vertically up and down, because if this connects vertically up and down, we've now created a cascade of dead ends that create 3 shaded cells next to each other, and that's very bad. So if this doesn't connect straight up and down, it always connects that way, is one of our truths about the universe. Okay. If this cell is shaded, it creates exactly the same odd number of loop ends problem. If this cell is shaded, then in fact it forces this, and now I've got an even worse odd number of loop ends. I've got 1 loop end floating around up here trying to make a life for itself, and this is a dead end, and all sorts of things are bad. So that's not shaded either, which means that is, which makes this a corner. Now, if this yellow comes down, I recreate the same problem. If the yellow comes down, then now I've got 3 loop ends coming out of this rectangle, so I can't do that. So that has to go up. That now has to go up. That has to go up. That's a dead end, so we can do that. And we can fill in our corners. This is our second shaded cell over here. That needs to go out over there. That goes there. Okay, so now these 2 cannot join, because if these 2 join, I've now created this giant Ouroboros that can never end of loop up here. I've created a mini loop, so that we have to avoid. So these come down. They still can't connect here, so they have to come down. And now my 2 region here is suddenly under pressure, where I've got a domino that needs to contain a shaded cell and another domino that needs to contain a shaded cell. I see that if I shade this cell, I create a dead end, but I don't know how useful that is. Yeah, I know these two aren't joining. I mean, I strongly suspect that if this goes down, it's going to break this 2 region. This cell can't be shaded because if it is, it creates a dead end between these two. So that's definitely something. Yeah, if this cell is shaded, it creates a dead end with this as well. What about this cell? That looks okay. Oh, no, it's not. It's not okay. If this cell is shaded, we create we create the inverse of the torment nexus that we created with this one. If this is shaded, we go shaded, shaded, shaded. That's also bad. Okay, and so that's not shaded. And so now we're shading 2 of these 3, which means that's definitely unshaded because, again, we're shading one of these 2 at least, so that's never going to be shaded. Trying to come up with an easy argument that one of these pairs is not the pair that gets shaded, and I admit I do not have an easy argument that one of these is not the pair that gets shaded. Like now, I think it's going to be that this comes down like that, which is kind of not what I was thinking before. If I'm honest. Oh, if I shade this, it just creates a dead end. If I shade this, it connects that, and now this is a dead end. So that's unshaded, which means those are both shaded, which means I probably could have done this all in a simpler way. So those are both shaded. So now that goes that way. Hopefully this is right. Let's see. We've got a string of corridors over here. That's a corner. Oh, yeah, these are now corners. I could have resolved that a while ago. Let's see. This 2 is now quite interesting because I certainly can't shade 2 down here. I don't even honestly know if I can shade 1 down here. I might have to do some loop end counting over here. Yeah, that doesn't work. If you look at it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's an even number of loop ends currently in this lower right quadrant. If I shade this, I pull this out. And now I've got this problem that I've now got an odd number of loop ends. So that's not shaded, actually. Okay, and so now I just have to say I can't shade 2 of this 2 by 2 because it's either a checkerboard that way or a checkerboard that way, and both of those involve a dead end. So that's definitely shaded. Okay, that comes down. That comes down like that. Comes down like that. Like that. So that's a dead end, so it is shaded, and now that was the only one in here that was allowed to do that. So now this is a corner. That's a corner. Don't make a little loop. Don't make a little loop. And so now this comes up like that. So this comes up like this, and we connect them like that. Lovely puzzle there. That one definitely made me think. I've not, like I said, I've not done this variation of Yajilin before. That was definitely a challenge, but very cool. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you have a favorite Yajilin variation that you would like to share down in the comments. Let me know if you have any other sources of relatively easy pencil puzzles that you think would make a good showcase for the channel, things in this sort of range. And I'll see everyone next time on Invitation to Puzzles. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.